Okay, hi. So we were just talking about the ISU and how it's going to take over for the 30% of your final mark. There is no final written exam. 10% is for the slide presentation and 20% is for the live presentation of the ISU. And the question here is, what list of information do you choose from? Okay, so let's go back to the ISU. Maybe I'll explain the ISU today. If you want the example, student example, I can post it somewhere, or if you want it directly, just email me and I'll send it to you. Okay. Here we go. When you get to the ISU, which is the very last unit after Unit 4, so after Hamlet, now because you're all working independently, for the new students, that's the reason I don't do activities in order. I do the ones that are important because students are all at different stages of the course, but I'm just focusing on Unit 3 for this month. But after you finish Hamlet, you'll see the ISU content. ISU is 8 hours, so it should take you about 8 hours to put it together. You have the list of instructions here. You have a sample here, right? So if I click it, we'll just walk through the example. There's a sample ISU, right? So the student put this together on a separate ePortfolio page, and then the question that was asked in the chat box is, where do I find the readings or choices for readings? When you go down here, it says, go to the Independent Study Project Instructions and Resources link to begin. That is this link down here, Independent Study Project Instructions and Resources. Once you click on it, it'll take you to the overview page and you read through what you need to include on your ePortfolio. And then you have to, like always, you have to click on all of these pages. What is the curriculum expectation? You don't have to read all of that. You click on the learning goals to understand the purpose. You click on the activity content. And when you get down to here, you will see the list of readings you can choose from. You have 7 readings you can choose from to do a comparison with another text from grade 12. So you're doing a compare and contrast to The Great Gatsby or Hamlet. Choose one of these stories, or number 8, you can choose any short story you want, but you have to check it with me first, right? There's lots of short stories that can compare to these 2 books, The Great Gatsby or the play Hamlet. These are just 7 of them in case you don't know any short stories, or you can choose your own. Many students have also chosen short stories written in other languages, but they have to include a translation, right? They have to tell me the translation. So maybe a short story in, for example, a Chinese culture. A short story from a Chinese poet or author. That's fine, but you have to translate the story for me. I don't speak Chinese, so I don't mind. That's fine. And then you can create your ePortfolio. Again, a sample page. Go back to Jim Wu's, and this is what it looks like. So he chose The Metamorphosis, which is this story here by Franz Kafka, and then created his ePortfolio page, right, with links and everything. And then when he was finished, he presented it to the class. Now at the start of the, oh, no, not that. At the start of the ISU, which is here, it just gives you some basic information of what you need to include. So you can start there, but the best place to go to is here, this link here, instructions. All right, so that's the ISU in a nutshell. Now, as we get closer to it, I can do another formal lesson on it, or if you're almost there. For example, I think a couple of you might be finishing Unit 3 and then moving on to Unit 4. Just email me. I can always help you out. Okay, any other questions before I go on about the final? No? Okay. let's wrap up with the Gatsby. There's no Padlet this week. We might do a Padlet next week, depending, but we'll just wrap up the unit chapter 3 today. But I'm going to do an overview of chapter 2 and chapter 3, and then an extensive overview of chapter 3. And then I'll take questions at the end. Now, the reason I'm spending a lot of time with this particular book is because I'm noticing that when students get to the essay, they really don't know what they're talking about. And I'm nervous that some people are either watching the movie and just writing the answer, or they are borrowing essays from their friends, or they're just looking at stuff online and they're not actually understanding the story, right? So it's important that you understand the story in order to put together, well, one, the presentation topic and the theme, and then also the essay. I've been marking the essays lately for grade 12, and I'm finding the average mark to be about 68, which is not very high, 68, 70, right? And that's not the draft. I'm talking about the final mark. So I have to make sure that people are reading the book and understanding the questions that are being asked. Okay, if there are no questions, let's move on to The Great Gatsby. So last week we did Unit 2. I'm sorry. Last week we did Unit 2. And this week we're going to move on to Chapter 3. So Chapter 3 takes place just after the main characters and the plot lines have been established. Like, if you've read through chapters 1 and 2, and if you're already finished, that's fine. But chapters 1 and 2 set the tone for the novel. You know, the major themes that we talked about last week, the characters that we introduced last week. So for new students, once you get to Gatsby, you go back and you can look at the video from January the 13th. You'll see information about chapters 1 and 2, chapter 1, Introduction to Gatsby. But now chapter 3, this is where the plot line starts to take off. So we have Daisy, we have Tom, we have Nick Carraway, the narrator, the main storyteller, and Jay Gatsby as the central 4 characters. And then you have partial characters. You have Mr. Wilson, Tom, and you have Myrtle, and you have Jordan Baker, right? So those are the 3 kind of secondary characters. In this particular chapter journal for Unit 3, wrong page. You have to go through all these curriculum expectations again. Very exciting. Ontario, Ministry of Ontario. Keep going. And now here's chapter 3 here. It's a summary for you. So after you've read it, you can actually read this as well. This is a summary to help you understand what happened in chapter 3. We'll watch a couple of videos, make sure that those points are made clearly. And then you get down to the nitty-gritty. What is the activity assignment? You have to choose between 1 of 5 questions and compose your answers down here. Okay, so let me preface this by saying, when you choose a question, whether it's this question or the following questions, there's about 4 reflective journals you have to write, right? These are journals you have to write. They are being marked. I suggest always starting with a standard format. So you should always mention the author's name, and you should always practice MLA, right? And then whatever you choose to answer, it doesn't matter whether it's the essay, whether it's a journal, whether it's a short reflective paper. Change that to italics. In Gatsby's The Great Gatsby, sorry, not Gatsby, Fitzgerald. Fitzgerald's The Great Gatsby. The rumors have been told by Gatsby, okay? So whatever question you're going to answer, this automatically gets you some, that shows me that you're at least a C+B level student. You should title your journal too, and you don't have to make it a complicated title. Journal 2, that's it, right? You can add a bold here as well, right? Now, it's asking you for about 300 words. Okay, you don't have to write exactly 300 words. 250 is enough. 200 words is enough. And you'll see that by the time you get to answering the question, putting in your topic sentence, and then using a quote maybe, the quotes are included. We're already at 200 words, and then you just add the works cited list. So at the very bottom, okay, blah, blah, blah. You're just typing your information here, your answer here, blah, blah, blah. I always suggest adding a quote, so something from the novel, right? A quote from the play, quote from the book. Use your MLA after you've quoted a line or two, page, let's say page 12, right? And then at the very end,